Hey everybody, Mr. Deary here, and I want to talk briefly today about the TAME thesis model for writing here. And right off the bat, TAME is built up of 7 components: the 2 T's of title and type or genre, the 2 A's of author and audience, the 2 M's of moves/materials and methods, and then finally the E of the effect. Now, for the T, we want to know what the text is and what type of text it is, or what the speech was and what type of speech it was. Now, if you don't know the genre or the type, what you can default to is either the phrase the speech or the text. If it was spoken to an audience, then it's the speech. If it was written for somebody, then it's the text. The more detailed you can get with that, though, sometimes you can get a little bit more out of that to help support your audience or maybe even your effect explanation. Now, when it comes to the title, if you have multiple pieces that you're citing, especially in a synthesis essay, or maybe you're pulling different pieces of evidence for a persuasive piece, it's always good to cite your title as well. That one, I will acknowledge, is not always essential, especially if you set it up within your introductory paragraph. Now, for the A, we have the author and we have the audience. Again, it's good to know whom we're talking about. Excuse me here. And as you're thinking about this author, what are some important details about them? What is their background? What is essential for us to know before you make your explanation? And that's regarding the author. Now, the audience you want to be specific and focused about. You don't want to talk about things in generalities. You don't want to talk about your audience as if it was this large homogenous group of people. Right now, I could say this video is made for students, but that's not true. It's made for AP language and composition students, primarily those who are either in blended learning or remote instruction. Because of the nature of how this is set up, it's quick, it's fast, it's a refresher. This is not a here's the core concept, let me explain it to you and give you examples over and over and over again. It's a refresher video. So that's why that audience is more important there. Now, for moves or materials, this is what is being done within this text by the author. And the method is the rhetorical device or the name of the thing that you're going to be using. And we'll see this in detail on the next slide. But for here, the green is what's happening and what type of move is being done. Now, finally, we have the effect, the explanation of how the moves and methods impact the audience or how they impact society. This is the single most important part of your thesis statement. This is showing me how all the details you've already mentioned, or maybe you've already highlighted, actually impact the audience or the purpose here. So when we see this in this next paragraph here, and when you see it all put together, you'll notice that we have our yellow for the author and the audience, large near 5 years homeless for the author, and our audience, a stable middle-class audience. We know that our text is going to be My Daily Dives in the Dumpster, which is an essay. The methods and materials, our method is using definition, a mode of discourse. Our materials are utilizing compelling selection of details. Okay, so that's what he uses there. That's his material that he builds off of. Excuse me, but all of this is irrelevant without the pink portion. Now, I'm just going to read this thesis statement without that, and you can probably understand why this is an incomplete thesis, where it says, Lars Eitner spent 5 years homeless living in abandoned buildings and on streets before publishing his experiences as essays. In My Daily Dives in the Dumpster, Eitner starts with definition before utilizing a compelling selection of details in order to convey to a middle-class audience. What? To convey what? The harm in placing such high value on the transience of material objects in contemporary society. Without this pink right here, without this portion that explains what is being done and why it's being done, this thesis doesn't matter. All the other information, you can go 6 for 6, but if you don't have that last piece, that's what's going to hold your thesis statement back. And again, we know in College Board writing, especially in their assessments, if you don't have a good thesis, the rest of your essay is basically toast. So it's essential to make sure we talk about how this is impacting the purpose and or the audience, or ideally both. So this is a quick refresher on how TAME works. If you got further questions, please go ahead and reach out to me individually and ask them. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Thanks a bunch.